The Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, here's Jim Coyle.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Glad to have you no matter where and how you're listening, hopefully on one of our great radio station affiliates, and leave it locked right where you got it on the radio station dial. Lock her in. If you're following on social media, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe and pound that like button. How's everybody doing? We made it to the weekend. Glad to have you. Appreciate you being with us throughout the week. And another big day today. Looking forward to Steve Wiltfong joining us as we'll talk about Indiana's huge recruiting weekend ahead, as their last home game against Wisconsin set up a big-time recruiting weekend. They have got some big-time recruits coming in. We will talk about all of that and much, much more when Steve joins us. Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com and Zach Osterman from the Indy Star as well will join us. Plenty to talk about as the weekend offers up plenty of activity. Indiana hosting Wisconsin as they will close out the home portion of their football season, looking to go undefeated for the second consecutive year at Memorial Stadium. And that should be the deal. No reason for that not to happen, as Indiana looking to close out the 2025 season with an undefeated regular season at 12-0, currently right now 10-0 with Wisconsin and Purdue yet to be played. And as I said, a major recruiting weekend, the biggest recruiting weekend in Indiana football history. Let's just tell it like it is, with some of these major big-time recruits coming in, some 5-stars coming in. We'll talk about all of them that are the possibilities, man. This is what it's about. And they're not going to get them all, but I expect that they're going to get some of these big-time recruits. And it's going to start changing things for the Hoosiers in a positive way, which they've already had so many positive changes. So changes to the CFP selection committee, by the way, as that unexpectedly, Mac Rhodes had been the chair of the CFP selection committee. I'm trying to pull this back up. I was reading these yesterday. It was pretty surprising, to be honest with you. It was not expected, but apparently there was a situation with Mac Rhodes, who was the athletics director at Baylor, and he resigned. So I don't know that we've had that before. So it was something a little different. But I don't know that it matters that much, except for the fact that now the new chair is from the SEC. Does it matter? It very well might. Well, they always say that it doesn't, but I think we saw last year with Bubba Cunningham being the head of the selection committee for the men's basketball, how that went. So to say it doesn't matter, I don't want to hear anybody say it doesn't matter. That's crap. The hell it doesn't. Yeah, it does matter. These guys are as flawed as anybody. Well, look, you just replaced a guy because he had to resign. And I don't have the full story on why, so I'm not going to go into that. But I think he got into a situation with a player, to be honest with you. And as an athletics director, that's just unusual. Very unusual. Mac Rhodes has resigned from his role as chairman of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee and is taking a leave of absence from Baylor. The decision was made for personal reasons, quote unquote, and the university has not provided further details. Rhodes' departure comes after an internal investigation into an incident involving him and Baylor tight end Michael Trigg during a game, no less. The investigation was closed, but Rhodes' leave of absence is now in effect. Yeah, exactly. What? I mean, it's kind of odd that you're getting in more on this, according to Yahoo Sports. Rhodes reportedly initiated the leave of absence from Baylor, with him stepping away from the CFP. It left them with 11 members, down from its 13. Because of that, the committee now added another member and a new chairman. Last week, Outkick report detailed that Rhodes was the center of a Baylor investigation into an alleged verbal and physical altercation with a football player and assistant coach. However, according to Dellinger, Rhodes' leave of absence is related to new allegations, not the prior school investigation or any direct infraction with a Baylor athlete. He's got all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, man. But that's my point. These are the people that are at the head of this stuff, man. Come on. We've got, gambling, more gambling. Oh, my goodness, do we have more gambling? And John Force is retired. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Of course, he's 76 and had that really bad accident when was that? It was last year, but man, bad accident. But he's done after 157 big time wins. Man, he was certainly a force to be reckoned with, no pun intended. But the draft pick, the number 1 draft pick for the NFL, man, teams are working into that. The Jets are trying. They lose to the Patriots last night, the Patriots, how about them? Back from dead. They're 9-2 now. The race for the number 1 pick in the 2026 NFL draft is taking shape after 10 weeks of the 2025 season. 5 teams have at least a 5% chance at landing the top pick. That's according to ESPN's Football Power Index. Tennessee Titans are one of those. Of course, the Cleveland Browns are one of those. How could a year go by and the Cleveland Browns not have a shot at the number 1 pick in the NFL? That's it seems like a right of birth kind of thing right there. The Jets, of course, and the New Orleans Saints and the Las Vegas Raiders. I'd probably go with the Raiders if I had my choice of those, but who knows how it will go. But where will Fernando end up? He'll be on one of those teams without question. We'll see. Does the man that doesn't I wouldn't. How much forward would you be looking forward to the fact that you're going to go to the NFL? Dream probably. But you also know you're going to go to a terrible team. So I don't know. How excited are you? Kind of crazy. Kind of wild and wacky. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see how it goes. How it goes. What lies ahead? Well, let's see. Those teams they'll have to win or lose. Better to lose, right? For those teams. But Where will the dial stop for Fernando? We won't know for quite some time. All kinds of gambling going on with the mafia. Yeah, that's right. The mafia involved in gambling. Shocker, right? I saw that. And Purdue, big win by Purdue last night. Huge win. Big time win down in Alabama. At Alabama. Solid win. 87-80. The Boilers beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So 29 points for Braden Smith. Big game. Big time game. So he's bringing his big boy game. They know, man. They know that the onus is kind of on them. And they played like it last night. By that, I mean they showed up and they played. That's a tough win, man. You think that's not going to go far? That win will carry them. That's going to look very good on a resume. Plus, all that we hear about the SEC, well, there's a little bit of the Big Ten for you. How you like that? West Virginia destroyed Pitt 71-49. LSU got a win last night over FIU 98-81. Kansas State 99-96 over California. Michigan State 79-60. Also getting the win. We're going to talk to Steve Wiltfong today on Indiana's humongous recruiting class coming this weekend. Indiana basketball back at it on Sunday. Their last 3 games, they have hit 10 or more 3-point. Actually, 2 of the 3, they've had 14 3-pointers. That's crazy. Best shooting duo in the country, DeVries and Wilkerson. I'd say so right now, without question. I know the odds are long, but the state of Indiana has a shot to win the Heisman Trophy, the NFL MVP, the College Football Coach of the Year, the National Football League's Coach of the Year, the Big Ten, the College National Championship, and the Super Bowl. Crazy. Yeah, I know. I get it. It's crazy. But all of that is possible, man, with the Colts and the Hoosiers. Great football year, not just for Indiana University, but in the state. Incredible. Russell says some guy from the NFL is rumored to be leading the Penn State. Guy connections to New York and thought to be an offensive guru. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Monsoon sales. All kinds of talking about recruits. We'll do that with Steve Wiltfong, like you said. Alec Lasley and Zach Osterman on the program today as well. Wide receiver, PSU decommit. Deciding this weekend. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on this weekend, man. It is people asking what happens if one of the teams gets blown out in the conference championship games. You know what? We know how it's supposed to go. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be one way because I can't speak for 13 people. We know how it's supposed to be, that it's not supposed to hurt you, but I can't tell you that if Indiana gets blown out or if Ohio State gets blown out or if Alabama gets blown out or Texas A&M or whomever, Georgia, whomever it ends up being in there. Can't say that for sure because Texas Tech is going to be sitting there right on the outside, waiting for one of these two losers to slip up. And Texas Tech would love to see that, especially if they could squeeze into the Cotton Bowl. That would kind of, we keep trying to predict things, but why? It's almost pointless because there's just too many things that can happen. I mean, I don't think that Indiana or Ohio State are going to drop out. I can say that. But I cannot say that if it was a 3-touchdown differential, either way, that it would not make a difference. I can't say that because I'm not going to be in the room with the guys that make that decision. Hey, let's take our first break. We've got plenty more coming. Steve Wiltfong will join us in this hour. We're going to talk about big-time recruits coming in to Bloomington this weekend. Basketball on Sunday. All kinds of football on Saturday as well. Stick around. We've got lots more coming up. Glad to have you along. Back with it right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, baby. We made it to the weekend. I mentioned earlier that this gambling thing continues to roll on. Now, 14 people have been charged in a mafia-backed betting ring involving college athletes. A multi-million-dollar illegal sports betting ring that involved college athletes and had links to organized crime. New Jersey authorities announced yesterday, according to authorities, Joseph Little Joe Perna, a member of the Lucchese crime family, and his associates ran a nationwide network of bookmakers and used offshore websites to facilitate approximately $2 million in bets between 2024 and going back to 2022. New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin said several college athletes operated sports books at the direction of Perna's organization. Platkin did not answer questions regarding which colleges or sports were involved in the alleged betting ring. The NCAA is aware of the charges and is looking into the case, according to a spokesperson. Well, that's going to be kind of important to know, isn't it? Perna, 55, of Fairfield, New Jersey, is charged along with his sons, stepson, nephews, and others with racketeering, conspiracy, gambling offenses, and money laundering. New Jersey Attorney General's office said Perna allegedly acted as the financier while his son, Joseph Perna, conducted the daily operations, facilitating dozens of subordinate agents. So there you go. Yeah. The Lucchese crime family is involved in a... Well, how could we expect this not to happen? Seriously? Hell. Come on, man. That was a gimme. You think the mafia is going to stay out of betting? They've been doing it for decades. Man, that goes way back. That's what the one movie was about. Back in the Boston College? I mean, it's been going on for a minute, but now it's just but I've got to say, I'm continued to stay impressed with how they continue to catch these people, man. You're gonna get caught. You're gonna get caught. It's crazy. Yeah, they catch you. Brian hates the Patriots, but he said their unis were sweet last night. I did not see them. But man, they are winning. I can tell you that. What would a team trade for Mike Tomlin? Well, good question. Andrew says Alabama lacks some discipline. Yeah, it's early, but teams that live and die by the three only sometimes will do that. That's not Indiana. Indiana lives and dies by defense and the three. But they're going to have to pick their defense up, man. Going to have to pick it up a little bit. Although scoring 100 points a night, pretty good. Pretty good as long as you can keep that shooting up. And as of right now, it's shooting pretty good. Don't forget to get your college pick'ems in this weekend. I've got to get those in myself. Big games this weekend to watch, man. Number 10, Texas, and number 5, Georgia go at it. Oklahoma, number 11, 12, Oklahoma at number 4, Alabama. Number 9/10, Notre Dame at 23, Pitt. Notre Dame loses that game, they're out. Oklahoma can get itself in by beating Alabama and knocking Alabama down. See, that's the thing. Some of these SEC teams can climb into this without knocking SEC teams out. You're not going to knock Georgia and Alabama out of the CFP with losses to ranked teams this week. But those teams can work their way in, meaning Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, we're not sure how many the SEC is going to end up getting in this year. And is it deserving? I don't know. I mean, I beat on them as much as anybody, but I'm not sold on Texas. But when the Big Ten, you had Washington losing to Wisconsin. Washington was the team Michigan still has a shot. USC still has a shot. I think those are the only two legitimate Big Ten teams outside of Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon that have a shot to make it, to be honest with you. We'll see. I mean, I'm obviously a Big Ten person over SEC. I'm not going to lie about that. But at the same time, I'm not going to, if it's not deserving, it's not deserving. And I think I see more SEC teams that are probably more deserving than Big Ten right now. I can admit that. But at the same time, I don't know that Texas is one of them. Now, if they win that game, they will be. Brian's got his pick'ems in. Bama died by the 3, Brian said. They had the looks. Yeah, you got to knock the shots down, man. Got to knock the shots down. Yeah, the Big Ten can get 4 in. The SEC, maybe only 3. No, the SEC is not getting just 3 teams in. That I can promise you. They've already got Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. I mean, it's going to be hard to knock Ole Miss out, although it's not impossible. You've got games. I mean, they've got the Egg Bowl to play at the end of the season yet. But it depends on who does what. These games this weekend, I mean, it's important. The Big Ten pretty much settled Indiana. They just have to win. As a matter of fact, they just have to win one of their last 2 games, much less win both that they are favored in. In the SEC, you've got some games this weekend. Like I said, South Carolina at Texas A&M, probably not a challenge, but you never know. I mentioned that Oklahoma and Alabama. Tennessee's playing a non-con game. Ole Miss is hosting Florida. Should not be an issue for them, but you never know. And that's the games I've already spoken of are the ones that those are the ones that will matter. Let's see how those go. And then of course in the across the Big Ten, Michigan goes to Northwestern. Northwestern did go to Penn State and win. That's an interesting game to keep your eye on. That one will be on Fox. Now, the biggest game in the Big Ten, probably number 21 Iowa at USC. I don't know that Iowa, they may have a shot yet to climb up in there. I can't. USC does at number 17. They could continue to climb a little bit. Penn State goes to Michigan State, Maryland's at Illinois. I just don't. I think Illinois is done. I think their shot is done. UCLA travels back to Ohio State. Purdue goes out to Washington. But Iowa USC, that's a game to keep your eye on. Maybe Michigan Northwestern. You never know. Of course, Wisconsin and Indiana, also the noon game on BTN. Indiana, a 28.5-point favorite in that game. Michigan, 10.5-point favorite over Northwestern. Ohio State, a 31.5-point favorite over UCLA. Washington, a 15.5-point favorite over Purdue. Michigan State, 7.5 over Penn State. And USC, 7.5 over Iowa. We'll find out, right? We shall. Hey, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Steve Wiltfong is going to join us. We'll get him talk about gigantic weekend ahead for Indiana football as they're bringing in a cornucopia of recruits. 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, all kinds of stars. Night of the stars, day of the stars, all kinds of stars. Stars, stars, stars. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after these messages.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, heading into a massive weekend for Indiana recruiting. And Steve Fong is the vice president, Wiltfong, of all football recruiting for On 3, baby. He's the man who matters, and you've got the information, brother. There's a lot going on in Bloomington this weekend. Steve, how are you doing?
Doing well, man. Biggest recruiting weekend at Indiana in the 20-plus years I've been doing this. Obviously, the Hoosiers, number 2 team in the country, number 1 scoring offense in the country, number 2 scoring defense in the land. There's a lot of excitement around this program as they steamroll their way to the Big Ten title game. They are already in the college football playoff for a second straight year. If they can take care of business these next 2 weekends against Wisconsin and Purdue.
Yeah, and I'm still amazed, and I don't want to get on this, but all those things you just rattled off, how well Indiana has done this year, worked hard throughout a tough league in the Big Ten to get to that position, yet they're still being looked at with a side eye by so many people, and I just don't understand it. I think they are still sometimes. It's hard to tell, to be honest with you.
I think they went out to Eugene, Oregon and got that win on the road. They earned the respect of everybody in the country. And I think that Indiana is a program that everybody's taking serious. When you're talking we're in a world right now where nobody is impressed by anything. They'll tell you Texas isn't a good football team. Who have they beaten? People can point to that Indiana win and say maybe it's the most impressive win that any program has had this season, going out to Autzen Stadium and beating an Oregon team that is certainly one that you still put on the short list as a national title contender. They go to Iowa, Kinnick, beat the Hawkeyes on the road, get a good win against Penn State and State College against a talented football team. Indiana has the respect, I think, of college football fans and media across the nation. Mendoza is a Heisman Trophy candidate, certainly in the top 2 or 3 there. Mike Shanahan and Coach Haynes are 2 of the most revered coordinators in America, and everybody loves Kurt Cignetti right now. The vibe that he has, the way that he carries himself, the post-game interviews, the pre-game interviews, the halftime interviews. He is must-see TV. I think Indiana has captivated this country, and people are rooting for him right now. You know, if they're not rooting for their own team, people want to see this story. They love parity in college football, and Indiana is a football team that has shown they can compete with anybody. And, you know, the Big Ten championship is going to have an opportunity to be one of the most viewed games of the season when you look at teams that could be number 1 and number 2 playing against each other on that stage at that time, as long as Indiana does what they're supposed to do and Ohio State does what they're supposed to do. The Buckeyes will obviously have a tough one up there in the big house against the Michigan team that's had their number year in and year out. So that'll be a thing that Ohio State will have to overcome. But Indiana, they can run the football. They're very balanced offensively. They take care of the ball, and they turn you over on defense, and they limit the points. And just how dominant they are and how they can respond to resiliency. They've had some games where they've had to show some grit and toughness in the fourth quarter on the road, and they're they're undefeated, mission accomplished each time. And I think that they have the respect of everybody nationally.
Well, it's certainly going to be fun to watch the remaining of this season play out. 2 more regular season games for Indiana as they head towards a Big Ten championship game, most likely with Ohio State. Ohio State still has to get by Michigan, which I say that with they haven't done that in 4 years. So that is something that they still have to get past. We've all assumed it's going to be Indiana and Ohio State, but not so fast, my friend. Not just yet.
Well, Indiana will have a marquee opponent in the Big Ten title game, regardless of it being Ohio State or not. You just, for the magnitude of the game and the sport, how awesome would it be for Indiana versus Ohio State? And to have that caliber of competition for Indiana to play at Oregon, to play the Big Ten is, the best conference in college football right now. The last 2 national champs have come out of this conference, and for Indiana to get tested the way that they have this year, to play at Notre Dame last year, and to get a Big Ten title game this year, that's the kind of stuff that prepares you to make a run in the college football playoff. Indiana is not a team that is just just to get in this year. They want to make a run, get a bye, play in one of those awesome venues for a bowl game, the Cotton Bowl, the Rose Bowl. We'll see where they land and then go from there. But these are games that help you win those games in December, in January, which is the ultimate goal. We are legitimately talking about Indiana winning a national championship in football this year. They have the team, they have the talent, they have the coaching staff, they have the culture, and schematically, when they step on the football field every Saturday, they put these boys in position to be successful. And then these guys are playing confident, they're playing fast, they're playing physical, and they think that they believe they can go out there and execute. And that's what you have in place with Kurt Signetti running your football program, with the cohesion of his assistants, Bryant Haynes, Mike Shanahan. It's unbelievable chemistry that the Hoosiers have right now.
Yeah, from top to bottom, coaching staff, the players, they have just been one unit and played as such over the last 2 years. It's been amazing to watch that. And as you laid out all of those possibilities, here's a few more. When you combine the season that the Hoosiers and the Colts have had, the Heisman, NFL MVP, College Coach of the Year, National and Football League Coach of the Year, Big Ten National Champions, Super Bowl champions, all of that possible in the state of Indiana, Steve.
Well, it's been a hell of a run, and the Pacers made the NBA Finals, and their Tyrese Halliburton injury away from maybe winning Game 7. He came out smoking hot in the first quarter, but Jim, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. So look, and the Indiana Hoosiers, this college football team, there's no ifs, there's no what ifs. They're out there trying to win the last game of the college football season. That is the mission. That is the goal. No one thought it was possible going into the season, even coming off a college football playoff appearance last year. They've gone out there and earned the respect on the field. And I think that people are believing in Indiana right now and rooting for this Hoosiers football team. If it's not their own, that's going to make a run.
The Hoosier fans certainly are, and they're going to be there to support the team this weekend, playing their last home game, undefeated over the last 2 seasons, Steve, but they're going to have a lot of guests in the house in Bloomington this weekend.
You asked me who's going to be there?
Yeah, I said Indiana having a lot of visitors in the house this weekend.
Yeah, it's, again, the biggest recruiting weekend that I've seen Indiana have. So many rivals, 300 recruits, 5-star, 4-stars. Torrey Davis is a 2026 recruit. Safety is a need for Indiana as they shore up this 2026 recruiting class. Torrey Davis, an impact player in all 3 facets of the game for Boulder, Fairview out there in Colorado, UCLA commit that's looking at Texas and Indiana down the stretch. So the Hoosiers battling the Longhorns on the trail. Maybe they see Texas in the college football playoff as well. But some big-time 2027s, particularly on the offensive line. But the eye catcher, the headliner, 5-star receiver Monshun Sales from Indianapolis, Lawrence North, coming back to campus. It'll be his second game. He's been to IU a bunch. Talked to him after Indiana beat Oregon, and he's like, look, this is a program that is showing that they can play and win on the biggest stage and potentially put me in situations of high visibility, playing in the best competition and performing at a high level. Now, in a recruitment like that, you have to do multiple things, right? You got to win. You got to show you can develop. You got to have a great offense. You also got to have great NIL opportunities, and you're competing against Alabama, Ohio State, and some other prominent schools that certainly have a lot of great things they can point to. But Monshun Sales, Indiana, close to home. Omar Cooper making that play against Penn State, same high school. Davian Chandler, they landed out of that school. There's a lot of trust with Coach Shanahan in this coaching staff with the Monshun Sales camp, and I know he's excited to get back down there this weekend with some of his buddies that play football elsewhere in the state, and it's going to be a spectacle, man. It's going to be rocking at Memorial Stadium on Saturday for this last home game to send this football team off. There's a tremendous amount of pride. People are rallying around this Indiana football team. And then you look ahead to the Oak and Bucket game. I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana took over Ross-Ade Stadium for that season finale up there in West Lafayette. And then the Big Ten title game. So many people are talking about it right now. The Indiana plays Louisville on basketball that afternoon.
Yep.
And then the shoot over and catch the Hoosiers in the Big Ten title game. What a dream afternoon if you're an IU sports fan to watch Indiana play Louisville and then maybe get over to the Big Ten title game. And I know they're not trying to get ahead of themselves inside the football facility at Indiana. The reason why we're getting ahead of ourselves in the media is because you just count on the Hoosiers to perform every Saturday because they've done that under Coach Cignetti and company. They're ready to play. They know what they're trying to execute to give them the best advantage. And so we just expect them to come out and play at a high level and do their thing against these opponents that they should dominate in the Badgers and the Boilers.
Yeah, it's going to be a great end of the season. And like you said, you're not trying to get ahead of things, but there are certain things that we're looking forward to. And no one is expecting Indiana to lose either of these next two games, but they could lose one of them and still make the Big Ten championship. So,
well, then they'd have to it would change the narrative a little bit.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying we can count on Indiana making the Big Ten championship is pretty much what most people are looking forward to. Of course, you never know that things happen, but I doubt very seriously that that will. But Indiana's got to keep that mentality, though, knowing that these two games are you're playing against Purdue. It's a rival. Purdue, the only thing they have to play for is playing an Indiana team as tough as possible. Wisconsin, they're coming off of a huge win over a pretty damn good Washington team. So you can't ignore Wisconsin all of a sudden.
Well, I'll leave you with this, Jim. This is a Purdue team that's in Barry Odom's first year that has certainly improved. They don't have the size, in my opinion, to compete consistently over 4 quarters for 60 minutes, but they went up to Michigan and gave the Wolverines, a hard-nosed physical football team, a handful. They're certainly going to try and end their season on a high note against Indiana in the bucket game, and Barry Odom will have them ready to play in that one, and then Luke Fickell getting the breath of fresh air, getting the backing from the athletic department, and then they go out there and win a football game at home, getting their first Big Ten win in a while. These are good football coaches. Luke Fickell is a good football coach that took a team to the college football playoff that had 11 players drafted from that football team. So they evaluated and developed at a high level at Cincinnati. It's been a challenge at Wisconsin for them to hit the ground running in such a tough league like the Big Ten. And that's another reason why you salute Curt Cignetti and what he's been able to do at a school that has really no football lineage. The Coach Mallory era it's been a long time since Coach Mallory has stalked the sideline. I know Tom Allen had a couple good years there at Indiana, but this is unprecedented, and Indiana will be ready to play. That is just their calling card, and the way that this coaching staff motivates these kids and gets them ready to play Saturday in and Saturday out is so impressive, and it's been exciting to watch and look forward to seeing them play on Saturday and then against Purdue, and then we'll see what happens in the Big Ten title game. But thanks for having me on, Jim. It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure to have you, brother. We appreciate you taking the time, man.
Yes, sir. We'll see you later. Take care.
Thank you, Steve. Steve Wiltfong, the Vice President of National College Football Recruiting and Transfer Portal for Rivals and On 3, where you can find all of his information at thehoosier.com to keep up with everything that is going on and with all that Steve's got to report. You know where to go. Thehoosier.com, where you can sign up right now for just $1, by the way, to check it out. And you get a full year of, you get it for 50% off and a full year of The Athletic. And you get into entered in for a giveaway. Adidas merchandise, man. There's a embroidered jacket, and we've got all kinds of good stuff, but you can find that out. Just go to thehoosier.com, get subscribed so you can keep up with everything going on with Indiana basketball, football, recruiting, news, and so much more with the relationship with On 3. It is rolling. Man, speaking of rolling, we're rolling into the weekend. All kinds of things going on this weekend. Football, basketball, crossover. You've got soccer. Saw yesterday that Major League Indoor Soccer or Major League Soccer is going to a spring or a fall spring schedule. We've talked a lot about that in the collegiate world, about that potential happening in the future. And I think that we're getting closer and closer to that very, very possibility. And we'll see. But it's something that may juice up the soccer, the collegiate soccer. Although the biggest thing is because the championships end up getting played in the winter when it's cold. Heck, but hey, as football does the same thing, so I guess what's the diff, right? The NFL, Washington and Miami from Madrid, Spain on Sunday. You get another Sunday morning football game. Maybe go out and get some Mexican, have some Mexican food with your football, huh? Bowl games or foregone conclusions. Man, yeah, 2 years ago, IU struggling to get to bowl games. Now going to college football playoffs. It's crazy. It is crazy. Are the bowl games, if you win a college football playoff game, is that the same? I know. Do you consider it the same as a bowl win? I ask that because Indiana has not won a bowl game since 91, the Copper Bowl, which is nuts. But is it a bowl win? I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah, to me, the answer is yes. But how do you quantify that? I mean, to me, it is yes, and I think that they would be combined and it would be considered the same thing. But stop by the Kurt Signetti show last night, Inside Indiana Football, for just a little bit. Packed house out there, of course. You've got to have reservations to get in there now. It was the last night or for that. Well, I understand. No, it's not the Cotton Bowl. It's at the Cotton Bowl. So I'm not sure that it's considered a bowl game, but the bowls are hosting the games. It's weird now. I'm not sure how it's really how they are, but yeah. The Rose Bowl is at the Rose Bowl. They're odd. It's just odd. But the Rose Bowl, definitely, because they're considering it the Rose Bowl. They have the Rose Bowl parade. So I think I'm going with yes on that on my end. But who do you think is going to make it? Who's not going to make it? Who are some of the teams from the SEC that are not going to make it? Is Ole Miss in for sure? Probably. Is Texas in? Not yet. Texas, I truly believe Texas' life depends on the game this weekend with Georgia at Georgia. Although if that is a close game, I can see the committee keeping them close by. So same with Oklahoma, they could crawl. They're kind of on that line right now, as a matter of fact, of being in at 11, 12. Texas is kind of in right now at number 10, but it all depends on what happens for both of those teams this weekend, because a loss would knock them out. David says the quarters and semis are actual bowl games. Well, I don't know that they're actually bowl games, but they're hosted by bowl games. I mean, I had Peach Bowl CEO on with Gary Stoken on with us not too long ago, and yeah, it's a weird. They consider it a bowl game because they're still putting it on. So yeah, it's weird. It's all semantics. I don't think it matters. Peebo says Saul were Moody signed, but did Carvalho sign? I don't know that he signed anything just yet, but that was just the official talk about the national letter of intent. But yeah, no, I haven't seen that come across yet. But that there you go. It's coming on Sunday on his 18th birthday, on his birthday, sounding on his birthday. Sig needs to use his talent wisely in these last two games. No injuries are allowed. Well, we'll see about that. Can't control that. Hey, we've got to take a break. When we come back, the great Zach Osterman will be with us from the Indy Star. Appreciate you joining us here on this Friday ahead of a big-time sports weekend. We're back with all of that and plenty more after these messages.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Glad to have you along. And got an alarm going off somewhere, and I don't know where the hell that is. So give me a second. That's how you take care of that. But I don't know how that thing got started. Zach Osterman joining us from the Indy Star. Zach, how are you doing today, buddy?
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, better now. Getting ready for a big sports weekend. I was talking to Steve Wiltfong. I know you're very, very familiar with former colleague of yours, Steve, with on.
Oh, yeah.
But massive recruiting weekend for Indiana football. Probably the biggest weekend ever as far as a one-time recruiting with Indiana, for everything that's going on, with everything that's on the line, with everything of which direction they're heading. A lot of big-time names coming in, and opportunity that Indiana doesn't often get.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, so much has changed in the calendar since really I covered football recruiting so closely, because so many of these kids now that, maybe 10 years ago were committing in the summer or the fall, or even after their season was over, are committing in like the winter, spring of their junior year because of the early signing window, because of the way the portal has changed kind of the relationship to high school recruiting. It's just different now. And so you are seeing, it used to be that these weekends, if you had kids on campus, were really setting you up for the official visit seasons after the season through December. Like I remember, IU basketball home games would be like huge official visit weekends. And, that was like, you're going to close, this is where you get your big time prospects that have been waiting until the end of the season and all that. Well, now it's kids that are juniors and even sophomores who are going to be wanting to make a decision maybe in like February, March, April, that in the past might have waited until right before their senior season started, or even waited until after the senior season. And so it's a different world. And I think a lot of the guys you're talking about are 27 kids, but whereas in the past, you probably wouldn't see those players coming through in large numbers until the winter at junior days and things like that, to really set them up to like, hey, let's get you back for a spring practice. Let's get you back for our summer camps, all that. Now it's like, you're trying to lay the groundwork for commitments. And not necessarily that anything's going to come out of this weekend, but more that, weekends like this, are you trying to lay the groundwork for these guys to maybe make the call for you in, like I said, in February and March and April. It's a different world than what I was used to back in the day, man.
What's prompted these kids to sign earlier now to get that out of the way is, of course, it's always great to not have to deal with that as you're navigating your senior season and all that stuff. But they're a little earlier, like you said. What's prompting that, the earlier signings?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. Obviously, the early signing window, just I think over time, naturally sort of migrated the calendar forward. Like when we first brought the early signing window in, the consensus was that it really wouldn't be for them. And I remember talking to like kids who'd committed to Indiana in like the summer, and when this is like 2012, 2013, when they were talking about bringing the early window in, when it wasn't in yet, but they were talking about it. And I said, would you use it? And they said, yeah, I would, but that's only because I'm committed. Like they said, I probably, if I wasn't committed, I don't think I would feel the need to get committed so I could sign in the early window. But what's happened is we have, just over time, the evolution of this calendar has turned the February window into the December window. That like it really has gotten to a place where everybody said, well, no, that's the early window is when I want to sign. And then I think the other, and it'll be interesting to see if changing the portal, the winter portal window, affects this at all. But the other thing that's kind of happened is high school kids don't want to be, high school players don't want to be going through the recruiting process at the same time that transfers are, because, in the sort of immediacy driven world of portal recruiting, if you're a high school player who waits until, the fall of your senior year, then, some of the college coaches that like a college coach might say when he's sitting down in front of his big board in February, well, I want these guys from high school and these guys from high school and whatever. But in the middle of a season, he's going to say, man, we've got a hole to plug. I need a guy. That a college coach is just going to reach for a portal player in the heat of the moment in the winter, I think, is kind of the prevailing wisdom. And so if you are a high school player, you don't want to be getting to December, in October, November, December, and still be looking for your home, because you don't want to be going up against a portal guy, because in the heat of the moment, when the frustration of the season is fresh, a college coach is going to say, I don't want a high school guy. This hole in my roster bothered me all fall. I want to go fill it with a guy who's going to help me tomorrow. And I think that those two things just kind of, like I said, just sort of steadily migrated the calendar forward. And now, you're seeing the effects of that.
Yeah, and you mentioned the portal. The portal opens up January 2nd this year, one window, and this is a season where Indiana likely to still be playing football while the portal is open. This is going to be and it's not just going to be Indiana; it's going to be multiple teams, but it's going to be kind of a different look this year with these teams playing and having this one portal window.
Yeah, it's clearly something Curt Cignetti was not thrilled with. We asked him about it a couple weeks ago, and he made it, I think, pretty clear that he doesn't like that they moved it. He doesn't like that they took away the spring window. It is going to be interesting to see how it affects playoff teams. That's right after the quarterfinals. So if you are in the playoff semis, then you'll be affected by that. I know there are a lot of people that think with the window moved back and compressed, because the other thing that I think some people have objected to with the way the calendar is now arranged is the fact that you're pushing a lot closer to the start of the academic year for some schools. And so to get a kid in to visit, get him signed, get his NIL, his rev share all arranged, and then get him on campus. That's very, very difficult. That's a compressed timeline. There are people who believe that you are going to maybe see a lot of kids that go into the portal with a destination already in mind. And I think that's distinctly possible, but it will be interesting to see how it affects, just this whole process. And I mean, listen, it's, this is the difficulty of portal and the way that we have kind of intersected the professionality of college football with the amateur side of it, which is that, there's no professional sport that conducts its free agent process or its draft or any of its major sort of, roster building cycles in season. But college sports, at least in theory, has to, because these kids have to go, they're beholden to the academic calendar. I have heard people argue for the idea that you just move this all back to the end of the spring and you just say, nobody's in spring practice. You deal with it, you live with it, whatever. Obviously that is broadly speaking how basketball works, but basketball has the luxury of being able to do that because of when it ends. So, I mean, I suspect we are not done sort of reforming and trying to revise the football portal window. But it will be interesting to see what this season looks like.
Yeah, because as I think about it, if you're one of those teams that is affected by this, you could lose depth during this phase while you're playing. On the other side, can you pick up players during this period?
No, I don't think you're not going to be allowed to add people.
I didn't think so. I thought that they already had to be on the roster prior to.
Well, I mean, you can't enroll them. Like, they can't be enrolled students until the semester starts. So I do not believe you'd be able to do that. No.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but I would just
and for what it's worth,
they're bringing G League guys back, so you never know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's all really messy. For what it's worth, I would be surprised if you saw like playoff teams lose depth in any meeting. I know we had that last year with Bo Pribula and Penn State, but like that was when the portal cycle was in December, and Pribula had to step away because he needed to go find his home. He couldn't wait until Penn State was out of the playoff. In this cycle, number one, I don't think players are not going to want to leave semifinal teams. They're going to want that opportunity. And number two, players who are on those four teams that get to the semifinals do get a window like almost unto themselves. They get extra time once their season ends. Now, I understand, I'm sure you will see a small handful that say, I need to go, I need to go for my own good now. I don't know that we're going to get like a Bo Pribula situation this year, but maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Speaking of all the recruits coming in, Indiana never having had a 5-star. They've got at least one of those visiting this weekend, of course, right from Indianapolis. But that wouldn't be until 2027, probably, when they were able to get that. But this is probably we were going to possibly see Indiana get their first 5-star recruit. I mention that because if Indiana is able to finish out the season like we expect them to and wind up with one of the top 4 buys, I would have to assume, without going through the rosters, Indiana would probably be the only of those 4 that doesn't have a 5-star on its roster.
Probably. And, this is where the whole blue chip ratio discussion kind of comes into evaluating these rosters. I do think, there is an extent to which we kind of have to sort of reconsider, not that the ratio is not still predictive, but that with the portal now, and even to a certain extent with the way that compensating players allows you to change the relationship between a player and his program. I just think it is not quite so predictive as it used to be. This idea that, if you don't recruit in the aggregate at a certain level over a certain period of time, there's a ceiling on your success. Now, listen, look at Indiana last weekend against Penn State. There is still an athletic level that I think Indiana wants to keep pushing its roster up toward. But I do think we have changed some of the conventions around evaluating recruiting as a predictive measure in success on the field, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, because so many times 5 stars don't turn out to be 5 stars, and it's not their fault. It's just opinions, and there's nothing better than talent evaluation and talent development, which I think Indiana has shown to be very adept at under Kurt Cignetti, and will continue to do so. As the football season moves forward and winds down, this weekend, the final home game, Indiana goes through now. If they win this game, 2 straight seasons undefeated at home, another feather in Cignetti's cap. We've got the big recruiting weekend coming up. Then you go off and you play the rival. Then you play the Big Ten championship game. It's boom, boom, boom for this team. Then they'll get a rest. Well, they do have the bye week in between, which will be probably coming at a good time as this team is kind of dinged up.
Yeah, I mean, listen, everybody is a little bit this time of year. Like, this is when the cracks start to show. And there is an extent to which, the team that manages its injuries best is the one that winds up winning the national title just as much as the one that's, coached, best prepared, most talented, whatever. Because there is a lot less, depth across most of college football than there used to be. And so, if you're Indiana, yes, the idea of some rest here really helps. But, in the same breath, I mean, I think there's also probably a question about, if you are we talk about this in baseball, if you're one of the teams that gets the bye, a month is a long time to go without playing football, or 4 weeks, I guess, technically. Yeah. Last year, I'm trying to remember who the semifinalists were. I think 3 of the 4 semifinalists played in the first round, if I'm not mistaken, because Notre Dame, Ohio State beat Texas, right? And Texas got a bye, but Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Penn State were all playing in the first round. They all hosted first round games. So, it is that balance you have to strike. And I think the question that a lot of, coaches probably are asking themselves is, if we get that bye, how do we handle the time off? How hard do we go in practice? Is it just complete and total? Let's rest. Let's get fresh. We'll deal with the rustiness when it comes. and in the meantime, we'll have a much healthier roster? Or is it, do you try to, maybe simulate game situations a little bit more to keep your guys sharp? But it's going to be interesting to see, assuming Indiana does get a bye, how Indiana navigates that.
Yeah, and Indiana already practices a little differently than most other teams, as Kurt Cignetti has set his practices up and successfully has navigated throughout them and lessened injuries by having lighter, easier type practices, I guess you would say. So I don't know if that would make it easier for them to navigate that, as they're kind of used to it, and they could kind of continue as they had pretty much. So that maybe give them an advantage on how you get through that. But yeah, we've seen through the years, Zach, when you have that time off, rust does grow, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was like this was years ago when it was one of the years that the Braves had a bye in the baseball playoffs, and I was listening to a podcast, and I think it might have been Eric O'Flaherty, who was a Braves reliever for a few years, who just said, he said, at the end of the baseball season, and football's gonna be the same way, nobody's healthy. Like, everybody's got something. Everybody is getting treatment for something basically on a daily basis. And he said, the thing that keeps you going is that daily routine, is that, like, yeah, it hurts, but I just, my routine is I come in, I get my work in, I get my treatment in. I just keep going through it. And he said, the minute you break that cycle, it can be really hard to just kind of restart your engine. That like the minute you mentally tell your body, like the season's over, essentially. Even if it's not, it can be really hard to kind of get your engine hot again. And I think I do think that is something very, very, I don't know, front of mind, I guess, for coaches, is basically just, how do you navigate that? And I don't know the answer, but it is going to be fascinating to see some of these coaches try to figure that out.
Certainly will. Zach, I cannot thank you enough. As always, man, make sure you are giving Zach Osterman a follow and being a subscriber to the Indy Star. Keep local papers alive. Appreciate you, sir.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Yes,
absolutely.
Sir. Zach Osterman. Every Friday here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com will join us next. Plenty more to talk about. Glad to have you along. We're back with plenty more right after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming, or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, FreeThink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Glad to have you along as we're heading into another big sports weekend. Indiana football hosts Wisconsin for their last home game of the season as they look to go 11-0. Men's basketball on the court on Sunday. Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com joining me now. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Jim. How are you doing?
Cannot complain. Looking out the window, and a beautiful day looks to be coming, and a beautiful weekend as temperatures are expected to hit 70 tomorrow. Man,
how crazy is that? We had snow. We had snow on Monday, 70 degrees. 5 days later.
Crazy. The last football game of the year, and you can literally wear shorts if you want to and not be uncomfortable. That's crazy. But goes right along with the crazy season Indiana has as they're looking to go 11-0 for the second consecutive season as they host Wisconsin, and they'll close it out with a trip to Purdue next week, and then a trip to Indianapolis to take on the winner of the Ohio State-Michigan game, I guess you'd say. We've been saying Ohio State all along, but it's really the winner of that game, to be honest with you. And that game is being played at the Big House, and Ohio State hasn't won in 4 years. I say that because the last 2 years we fully expected Ohio State to win, and it didn't happen. So I don't think that they're going to get upset this time. I really don't. But it's Michigan, Ohio State. That's all you can say. I mean, I'm like, it's that would be nuts, and it would kind of ruin what we're all looking forward to, the 1-2 matchup of the Big Ten. That would be the first 1-2 matchup in the Big Ten championship in 20 years, I think, thereabouts. It was Ohio State, Michigan the last time that happened. I think it was 2006, I believe. But I think it'll happen that way, but we'll have to wait and find out. Either way, Indiana's going to play in the Big Ten championship, putting the cart before the horse a little bit. They have to win one of these next two games. If they don't win both of them, they don't deserve to play in it. So there's that. But, man, just saying that, getting ready for that, this Indiana team getting ready, massive recruiting weekend. I just talked with Steve Wiltfong and Zach Osterman about that. Massive recruiting weekend for Indiana football this weekend, Zach. And I think, Alec, and I think that's just grown. It was not planned on being this big just because of all the things that have continued to happen. It's snowballed, and, man, it's a great snowball effect to have.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's probably the biggest recruiting weekend for Indiana football ever. And I'm sure, Steve talked a little bit about this. He had some good stuff up earlier this week on the site about not only who was showing up, but the numbers of players who were showing up. And, it's over 100. I don't know the last time that Indiana's had that big of a recruiting weekend. I think you look at Illinois this year, right, is kind of the big one that they had coming into this weekend.
How do you bring 100 guys in, though? How do you manage? That's more than your damn team roster.
Yeah,
think about it.
And they spread this out. You have 2026 recruits who are commits that are coming back. So you have a good core group of guys who are already committed, right, who can kind of create a little bit momentum with some of these others. They're bringing in a couple 2026 flip candidates, right, guys who are committed elsewhere who are looking to potentially make that shift. And that's big, right, when you can combine current commits with guys who are looking to potentially flip a month before National Signing Day. So that's a huge potential avenue there. And then you have some really, really key 5-star 2027s and 2028s coming in. And so they're starting early, top 15, top 20 caliber players, guys from both in-state and out-of-state. They have some key guys coming from the West Coast, which is something that, typically at this point in the season, you're not getting from an Indiana recruiting visit. Guys from California and the Northwest as well that typically wouldn't be making the trek out, let alone to the Midwest, but specifically Indiana. And you're doing that here with the last home game in November as the number 2 overall team in the country, about to most likely play for a Big Ten championship and have a chance at going deep in the college football playoffs. So it's a monumental weekend for a lot of different reasons. I think and I'm sure you've talked about it too this week and today as well. But the the big story should be, yes, the recruiting, yes, the potential to finish off the last home game with a win, but this senior class, right? I mean, the guys who stayed, the guys who came back, the guys who obviously followed Kurt Signetti to Indiana from James Madison, right? The seniors who have really built the foundation and have really set the standard for what Indiana football is moving forward. Their last home game, obviously a lot to be celebrated there as well.
Yeah, plenty to talk about as we get closer and closer to the CFP, and knowing that teams are going to be yet to be determined. Indiana, one of those teams, it's going to be virtually impossible to knock them out of the top four. I mean, they would have to lose both of these games, to be honest with you. That's not going to happen. But the SEC, we don't know who for sure is going to be in that top four just yet. Georgia, Texas A&M, Alabama. So all fighting to get those two slots. But Texas A&M, they're fighting for Texas Tech rather. They're right there on that outside saying, wait a minute, man, we think we're better than one of these losers. By the losers, I mean whoever loses the Big Ten and the SEC championship games. They're going to want that fourth spot above one of those teams, and I get it, but SEC and the Big Ten own the toy box, baby.
No, absolutely. But even the crazy part is that there's still so much movement, right, that can happen here. I mean, Texas still plays Georgia. Oklahoma plays Alabama. Both of those teams still obviously fighting for kind of that last couple spots there in the field right now. Who knows what happens if one of those two teams knock off Georgia and knock off potentially Alabama. Georgia Tech still play. Obviously, the ACC is kind of the odd man out at this point, right? Especially with the losses to Louisville, the losses by Louisville, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and obviously Miami here over the last couple of weeks. So what happens potentially if Georgia Tech goes in and beats Georgia the last game of the season? What happens with the ACC? There's still so many different questions that need to be answered here over the next couple of weeks from a seeding standpoint, but also the field standpoint. I think outside of the top three, right, with Ohio State, Indiana, and A&M, still a lot of potential movement there. A lot of potential movement in for that 4 seed, and obviously that's a critical final spot there to get that first round bye and be able to kind of set yourself up for what could be a deep playoff run. We saw obviously last year a lot of the teams that played in that first round weren't really able to make a huge deep run, but obviously vastly different year this year, vastly different teams there. We'll see what happens, but it should be an exciting finish here, and I really think if Oklahoma is able to beat Alabama this week, that could cause a lot of drama there in the SEC and shake up a lot of things. And then I'm definitely circling that final game of the season, Georgia Tech, potentially what could happen with the SEC there, and even the ACC if they get a win against obviously a top 5 team at that point.
And if they don't, are they potentially looking at not getting a team in, which would be crazy? I mean, the ACC has been weak for the last few years, but I don't think that any of us ever thought that they would not have a single team worthy of being in the top 12, and that is turning out to be the case right now.
A lot of people have Miami right as their national champions, and a lot of people had Miami as a team that could make some noise, especially after that opener against Notre Dame. Obviously, a lot's changed, but I think really they were set up not from a top heavy standpoint, but they were set up with 4 or 5 teams there in the top 20 guys teams that could make a run, potentially see a domino effect in the SEC, see some teams lose and then just move up that way. But the losses to the last couple of weeks by Louisville, Virginia, and then Georgia Tech really set them back. And then obviously that second loss by Miami was not helpful in any sort of way. So we'll see what happens at that conference. Obviously, a long way to go before they can really kind of compete with, in my opinion, the Big Ten and the SEC here. But we'll see what happens here coming down the stretch.
Yeah, and while the SEC is more than likely going to get more teams in this year than the Big Ten, it was reversed last year. The Big Ten is still at the top right now, or is viewed that way. I don't know. Do you think that they're as strong at the top this year as they were last year? I mean, I don't know that Ohio State's the number one team. I don't know that they're better than Indiana, to be honest with you. So I don't know where that sits. I don't know where Oregon comes into that picture. And then, you compare them to the SEC. It's hard to compare because they don't play.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that from a top heavy standpoint, I think the Big Ten is better this year, in my opinion, because you have Indiana as in my opinion, a clear top 3 team. And so you didn't have that last year, right? You had Penn State, but obviously the questions around Penn State with James Franklin and the inability to win the big games were always going to be there. And they still had more questions and probably answers at this point coming down the stretch. I think Oregon is still a team that, going into last year, right, a lot of people thought they were the clear-cut favorites, and then they end up losing coming out of their bye. I think this year they've been tested a lot more. Obviously, the home loss to Indiana, kind of squeaking by Iowa. I think they've been tested a lot more to be able to go in, kind of flying underneath the radar a little bit more than what I think they were expected to be just a couple of weeks ago. And then Ohio State, I think the talent that they have is just on both sides of the ball is extraordinary. And the wide receivers that they have, the running backs, Julian Sayin obviously continues to play at such a high level. Obviously, it's I don't want to say it's easy to do that with the talent level that they have there on the outside, but makes life a lot easier when you can throw the ball to Jeremiah Smith or anyone like that, Carnell Tate, and guys can just go get the ball. So I think the Big Ten is better from that standpoint. I think the SEC isn't as talented from a top-heavy standpoint. I think you have a lot of those teams kind of right in the middle of the pack, and that's why you see a lot of those teams maybe outside of A&M who really can move from 4 to 12 with one game, or from 12 to 4 with 1 or 2 wins here coming down the stretch. And you still have a couple of those teams right on the outside, like Vanderbilt, trying to kind of squeak and squeeze their way back in. But I don't know. I've always thought the top 3 of Indiana are Ohio State, Indiana, and then A&M are kind of in a league of their own, and then it drops off a little bit. I still think that. I still think Indiana and Ohio State are the 2 best teams in the country, and obviously we'll be able to see what that looks like on the field most likely in a couple of weeks here at the Big Ten Championship. But I just think that the way Indiana was able to level up clearly puts the Big Ten in a really, really good spot here going into the college football playoff.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
And let me ask you this: what happens if, whether it's Ohio State, Indiana, whatever, if Oregon wins it, right? But what happens if the Big Ten gets maybe 2 or 3 teams here potentially in the semifinals, right? Or even just 2 teams, right? What happens to that, quote unquote SEC bias and everything? Well, what are they going to say when you have, Ohio State and Penn State last year in the Final Four, and Ohio State obviously wins it, and then you potentially have another really dominant run by the Big Ten this year. And
you could have Oregon, Indiana.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. Only, except for I'd rather see Indiana, Ohio State, just so Indiana could vanquish that deal and they could exercise that demon for them. But yeah, I would just love to see the Big Ten knock off the SEC, just so I could say, now stick that in your pipe and smoke it for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So, but we get to let it play out, fortunately. And that's the great part of this, is it's not left up to just voters like it used to be. At least games are going to be played. Teams are going to play each other. And we don't have to worry about teams getting left out. I'm really, boy, for 2 years in a row now, we're going to say, do we need more teams in? Do we really? I mean, I was one of those that would have instantly said, yeah, but after 2 years, I'm like, maybe not. I mean, obviously, we can see right now that the national champion is not going to come from outside, the 12. There are not 12 teams that are capable of winning this national championship. There are probably 5, to be honest with you, and maybe not really that many, but we'll give it 5. So it's not even half of 12.
Another
like the 12.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think 12 is by far the best kind of number. Football and basketball vastly different, right? From a logical standpoint of how many teams theoretically could win, you have a lot more from a basketball standpoint than you do, football standpoint, because one player on the court can impact the game vastly differently and way more than one player on the football field. Especially if you kind of take away that quarterback position. But, one thing that I think is going to be interesting to see what happens over the next week when the next playoff ranking come out is, what happens overall now that Mack Rhodes, the committee chair, is no longer there, right? I mean, they have a new college football chairman.
Not only is he not only there, the new chairman is from where?
Is it not
the SEC?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, that's going to be a new twist to kind of see what happens.
And I said it earlier, if you think it doesn't matter, you're full of crap. Look back last year at basketball and Bubba Cunningham. That's all you got to say. Putting North Carolina in when they clearly did not deserve it.
And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with A&M, because it seems like that's been the biggest. The committee has said Ohio State is clearly the number 1 team. Then there's a drop off, and then they kind of put A&M and Indiana right in the same line there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if Indiana maintains that number 2 seed, or if they fall to number 3 and swap now with the new chairman, and obviously some of the new conversations that are going to happen. But we'll see. But that's just a new dynamic that obviously was not there just a couple of days ago. That can obviously vastly impact the way that the seeding and the playoff field is obviously put together here over the next month.
Well, the one good thing is Indiana is going to be in it. Indiana fans can start worrying about it. The thing is, they don't know where they're going to go. And as much as I think that we can figure it out, you can't, because if they win the Big Ten, likely they'll go to the Rose Bowl, but not guaranteed. Likely, if they were to lose, they would go to the Cotton Bowl, but not guaranteed. So you're just going to have to wait. We'll take speaking of waiting, you don't have to wait very long. We're going to take a quick break. We've got basketball to talk about, too, as the Hoosiers are back on the court on Sunday after getting to 3-0 in exciting fashion, averaging close to 100 points right now, Alec. And, man, the shooting, my goodness. It's been crazy. They've hit 14 3-pointers twice in their first 3 games. Wild. More to talk about here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing, or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition, or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, heading into a big weekend of sports action, football, college football all day Saturday. You've got NFL and college basketball on Sunday. Another early NFL game coming from Spain, from Madrid. Indiana right now 3-0 on the basketball court, Alec, after dispatching a Milwaukee team who was game. And actually, I wonder if they're not better than Marquette. That Milwaukee team, they're not a bad team. Plus, they're favored to win the Horizon League. So that's not some Joe Schmo team, man. They're good. They shot the three well. They're a solid team. That's a good win.
No, it absolutely is. And look, I mean, Indiana's done exactly what they need to do, right, in these early games, is beat down on teams that are clearly a level lower than them. I think the win against Marquette really kind of put things into perspective. That's not, it's not just a random team that you can beat any given day of the week. Now we'll see kind of what that Marquette team ends up being at the end of the season. It's not the most talented Shaka Smart team that he's had, but nonetheless, it's roughly a 30-point win over a team that could potentially make the NCAA tournament. If it doesn't, then that's still a 30-point win nonetheless, right? And then you turn around and, didn't probably put together the best performance against Milwaukee and kind of had some ups and downs there. But, 3-point shooting and the ability to shoot your way out of droughts can change a lot. And that's what you see with this team. I mean, this was we saw it a little bit in the Baylor exhibition, right? Sometimes shots not falling. It wasn't necessarily that case from a 3-point standpoint on Wednesday, but they just kind of struggled, I think, a little bit getting into some of their sets and kind of forcing a little bit of the issue. But then, 1 or 2 possessions later, you change and you hit 2 threes in a row and get kind of going on all cylinders. And I think the best part about this team, right, and we've talked a little bit about it, but I think it's highlighted even more, is on any given night, you're going to have your Lamar Wilkerson nights, you're going to have your Tucker DeVries nights, and both of those guys are still going to be able to put up 15 to 19 points on a quiet night, right? I mean, Tucker DeVries ended up, I think, 12 or 14 points, didn't really force anything, didn't take many bad shots, and was pretty quiet for the majority of that game. But it was Lamar Wilkerson, obviously, that had a big one with 24 points. But you're going to be able to see the Tatum Conways and the Reed Baileys, really step up here moving forward. And I think the big question mark, though, is still going to be what Reed Bailey is able to do against high major competition. And I think that's the biggest question mark so far. Look, this team is going to be what it is, rebounding the ball. It's not going to be a great defensive rebounding team. They're just going to have to live with that and find ways to just kind of scrap it out. They're probably not going to be the best defensive team because they, so far, they're just a little bit slower on the perimeter. You have great defensive ball pressure with Tatum Conway. He can foul a little bit too much. Same with Connor Enright. Outside of that, right, if Sam Alexis gets into foul trouble, you have no rim protection. That's going to be what it's going to be. But it's going to come down to, in my opinion, what Reed Bailey is going to be able to do. He struggled against the length and athleticism against Baylor. He obviously got into foul trouble and played only about 10 minutes, 9 minutes in that Marquette game. The two real games that we can really look at the level of competition. Obviously had a great opener, had a great game against Milwaukee. Two teams that obviously just don't have the athleticism, the size, and the versatility from a forward standpoint. So I think we're going to be able to really see what he can do, obviously going up against Kansas State in a couple of weeks, Louisville, and then Kentucky. Those are going to be the 3 games that I think you really want to see Reed Bailey take the next step in. But he's versatile. He can do a lot. He finally was able to step out and hit that three. He shot about 43% from three last year, just not a high volume shooter. But if he's able to start to incorporate that a little bit more in his game, obviously that's going to change a lot of what Indiana can do offensively already, a super versatile offensive team. But I think that's my biggest question is just what he's going to look like moving forward against high major competition. He's clearly skilled enough, but he needs to be able to stay on the floor, especially, if you're not going to have Josh Harris back for still quite a while, still with the boot, still had one crutch there on Wednesday. And he's that only other, true big man that they have from a, forward center perspective. So it's kind of full steam ahead with Sam Alexis and Reed Bailey. And you got to keep one of those guys, if not both, consistently out of foul trouble, because now it's 2 games in a row early on that both of those guys got in foul trouble. Reed Bailey against Marquette, Sam Alexis against Milwaukee.
Yeah, Sam, he's got to be smarter than that. His first foul he's 90 feet from the basket and gets his second foul 20 seconds later on the other end. So yeah, you got to be thinking, and especially right now, you've got to be cognizant of what you have. And Reed Bailey, though, my gosh, for a 6'10" guy, he can handle the ball. He brings it up like a point guard, man, moving, not walking the ball up. He's bringing the ball up in a hurry. That's going to have to be advantageous at some point, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's not going to be able to do that if he's
not sitting on the bench.
So, and he's not going to be able to do that if he can't continuously raise the level of raise his level of play against those high major skilled forwards, because you're going to get physical play, right? And I think that's why it was so good to get the Baylor and Marquette games in early, because those are 2 physical teams, 2 versatile teams from a forward and center standpoint. So to be able to get those kind of out of the way early, have a lot of tape from what he can really focus on, but he needs to stay out of foul trouble. That's going to be, if so, obviously the versatility that he has is going to be tremendous. But I think either way, right? The 1-2 action, it's so fun watching Tucker DeVries and Lamar Wilkerson play off of each other. And, not many teams have 2 guys that are, 6'5" to 6'7", that are both wing players who you run a lot of pick and roll, pick and pop action through. And, one thing that I love watching is the staggered screens. You can have, they go, I think there was one possession where they had, I think it was Connor Enright or Tatum Conaway coming off of 3 straight screens. Trent Sicily, who popped, Tucker DeVries, who popped, Lamar Wilkerson, who popped. You get it to Lamar Wilkerson, jab step, makes a 3. That you just can't guard that when you have now 3 legitimate shooters. And Trent Sicily showed now that he can be a legitimate shooter. 3 guys that are lights out from the perimeter. That how are you going to guard that? And if they shade a little bit too far over to that shooter, Dayton Conaway obviously has shown the ability to get downhill in a hurry, and he can go right at the rim. And there's just so much more space to operate from a perimeter perspective and from a paint perspective, that all the paint touches that they're getting are coming off of terrific backdoor cuts. And that's one thing that I saw again. They really showcased it against Marquette, but then Milwaukee too. The over aggressive style of play that both of those teams have defensively, the amount of back cuts and back screens that this team has moving off the ball. Tucker DeVries is able to get 6 to 8 points a game just by his back cuts, and that just shows the level of maturity that this team has, because he's outside of maybe that one heat check that he had against Marquette, it was crazy deep off one leg, fading away. He hasn't forced anything all year. He may just miss a couple open shots here and there, but he doesn't force anything, and that's the great thing about this team. They really don't force bad shots, and Tatum Conaway talked about it post game on Wednesday. He's just like, we like to pass up on good shots for great shots, and you see that with it's 71% assist rate on the season so far. With 73 assists on 103 made field goals. I mean, that is just
mind-boggling number here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking historic record-setting numbers there if that were to continue, which will it continue at that level? No, but I don't know how far it's going to drop down. That's their offense.
So I don't know how far that's going to drop, to be honest with you. Tatum Conaway averaging over 6 assists himself per game right now. It's only been 3 games. I get that. But, hey, that's the start, man, and that's the offense. That's how they run it.
Lamar Wilkerson had a career high 8 assists against Marquette. He has 1 turnover in 96 minutes played. Lamar Wilkerson, 1 turnover in 3 games. And that's playing, I think, 33 minutes a game, 32 and a half, right? So, I mean, he has the ball in his hands a lot. I think that was, was one thing that I asked Darren DeVries after the Marquette game is just, how much he really brings to this team as a ball handler, because everyone knows him as a shooter and a scorer, but he's really shown so far in the first 3 games that he can do a little bit of everything. And I think that was critical, especially with Conaway and Enright in foul trouble for, portions of that Marquette game, to really be the main ball handler against some key pressure. And obviously did a great job, 8 assists and no turnovers there, and then comes back and has, I think, 4 assists against Milwaukee. So just an incredible, playmaking performance in the first couple of games by Lamar Wilkerson.
And it's only been 3 games, but we're getting a better indication of what this team may offer in Big Ten play. We've seen some of the other teams in the Big Ten play. It's going to be tough. Illinois is going to be tough. Michigan's going to be tough. Michigan State. And, of course, Purdue, gigantic win for them last night down in Tuscaloosa. That was a gutty win. I mean, they had to hold on, fight, grit, grind, and they got it done on the road in SEC territory.
Man, Purdue, and I know Indiana fans aren't going to like listening a lot about Purdue, but
hey,
what is so
part of it, baby.
What is so crazy to me is, and this is going to come across kind of not ridiculous, but Purdue's not a difficult team to scheme for. Right. Exactly what they're going to do. Braden Smith is going to dribble around the perimeter. He's going to try to get into the paint. They're going to run high pick and rolls with Trey Kaufman-Renn. If that's not there, they're going to try to get some off-ball action with like a staggered screen with Fletcher Lawyer. If that's not there, they're going to dish it into Trey Kaufman-Renn, and he's going to go to work. Right?
And then they've got the 7-footer that they hope picks up some trash.
They have 2 main players, which is Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith, who are they're so crafty and so intelligent with the ball, both on and off the ball. But they are just so dominant in their skill set that it's so difficult to stop them, and they're so efficient, right? I mean, they're taking 75% of the shots here, and they're so efficient. It's so difficult to slow them down, but exactly what they're going to do, and that's the amount of different sets that Matt Painter runs. And I think that's right. One thing that Indiana has been missing for a decade is the skill from a coaching standpoint to put different sets in place. And, it goes back to, I'm jumping around here, but I just thought of it, that half court sideline out of bounds that Darren DeVries had when there was a second and a half on the shot clock. And he has Lamar Wilkerson, Sam Alexis, and I think Tucker DeVries up at the half court line. And they run a couple screens. You get Lamar Wilkerson going downhill and he gets fouled and he gets right to the line there. It's just, the attention to detail, both with Matt Painter and Darren DeVries now that we've seen with their ability to have so many different plays off of one set is so fun to watch and so refreshing from an Indiana standpoint. But Purdue just is such a talented coaching team that they can do just about anything with anyone. We've seen that now for a decade. But what a big one. I think that was their first road win against the top 5 non-conference opponent in like 30 years. So, I mean, big for the Big Ten, big for Purdue. Alabama's going to be good. And that was Alabama's a difficult place to play, especially with those athletic guards. And Purdue was very impressive last night. I think they've grown a lot, obviously, since that Kentucky exhibition. But just again, what a big, non-regular season game that you can play in before the year gets going, to really kind of set yourselves up for some of these big non-conference games. So obviously that should pay dividends for Indiana too, going back to that Baylor exhibition.
Absolutely. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Make sure you go subscribe now. Get yourself entered in for the all the free merch to give away, and give one away to a friend for a gift for Christmas. Great idea. Alec, thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You betcha. And I appreciate each and every one of you. We're back tomorrow after the football game for the post-game show. So until then, I'm Jim Coyle. Go out and have yourselves a great day and a great weekend. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.